Okay. So the class that I created myself was 20th Century Baseball, and one of the course lectures is on one of my favorite players, Jackie Robinson. This is a quote by him when he was playing. It says, "A life is not important except in the impact it has on other lives." This was a great quote according to his life because he had a tremendous impact on not only baseball but the civil rights movement and black athletes in the future. This lecture will cover just many areas. It'll cover his early years, childhood, and his junior high school years, college, military, all three levels of professional baseball he was involved in, and then I will cover just briefly over his role in the civil rights movement. Okay, so Jackie Robinson was born on January 31st, 1919 in Cairo, Georgia. He is right here. He was the youngest of 5 kids. Notice there's no father in the picture. Around when Jackie was 1 year old, his father left the family, forced his mom to work 2 jobs as in the sharecropping business. So they were pretty poor. They didn't have a lot of money. This also affected Jackie heavily because he couldn't participate in recreational activities with the white kids. So that pushed him towards gang society. And he was heavily involved in a gang called the Pepper Street Gang, with the street that he lived on. This gang was heavily equipped with African Americans, Japanese, Mexican, Chinese, and they didn't really do anything big. They just wrecked cars, trashed houses and stuff like that. So his mom was really worried about him, and sports was a huge attraction to Jackie when he was really young. He wasn't introduced to sports until he was in high school by his older brothers Mac and Frank. He played all 4 of the main sports back then: football, baseball, basketball, and track. He was very gifted, very talented, very athletic, won numerous awards, many competitions. He was just getting this high praise around Pasadena. One newspaper even reported that Jackie was the most outstanding athlete for 2 years in high school. He loved sports tremendously, but most of his teammates were white, so he heavily faced discrimination, segregation in high school. He also, real quick, he even was very successful in tennis too, as well. He loved sports so much he would continue it in college. He attended Pasadena Junior College for 2 years. Played all 4 sports again. His first main act of discrimination came on January 25th, 1938, when he was arrested. He was defending a black friend who was wrongly accused of a crime, and so he beat up some police. Got arrested. He faced a 2-year suspension from athletics. He also received this image of combativeness that was big back then. This would also carry into his military and baseball career, which he really struggled with, and it formed him to who he was later in life. Towards the end of his Pasadena Junior College career, his brother Frank Robinson was killed in a motorcycle accident, and that really struck him really hard. So he left Pasadena as soon as he graduated, came back to Pasadena and lived close to Frank's family. But he was still very intrigued by sports, so he walked on at UCLA. His UCLA time was very, very prominent in his life. You can see here he's on the baseball field doing some field work. He transferred to UCLA in 1939. He was the first athlete to letter in all 4 sports, white or black, so that was huge for him. Another intriguing fact was his football team was the most integrated team in college football in the within that time period, and they only had 4 black players. It was funny because 4 black players was Jackie, Woody Strode, Kenny Washington, and Ray Bartlett. It was funny because they all played the same position. They were all 4 of them were running backs, and they were all very talented. Football was considered his main sport, as well as track. He was a long jumper and triple jumper in track. He won the NCAA championship for the long jump. He long jumped 25 feet, I believe. His senior year, he met his future wife, Rachel Ism. They were married a few years later. They had 3 kids, Jackie Jr., Frank, and Sharon. As funny as it seems now, he considered baseball his worst sport because he was so good at football and track that baseball was just basically a hobby. He was just out there because he loved the game, but statistically, it was his worst sport, and he wanted to play professional football, excuse me. And so he got an offer to play in Hawaii for a semi-professional team in 1941, but it quickly halted because something happened. Do you know what happened?
No.
Pearl Harbor.
Pearl Harbor, yes.
Oh.
Pearl Harbor attacked, like 2 weeks he was in Hawaii, and so then everything in Hawaii shut down, and the U.S. entered the war, which Jackie did as well. Jackie was drafted into the Army in 1942. He was assigned to Officer Candidate School, and at this time the OCS was race neutral, and then there was supposed to be no segregation, no discrimination whatsoever within the academy. But however, his application was delayed several months. Him and a couple other African Americans who also got drafted, they were delayed. Their applications were delayed, and so they didn't enter into OCS way after other draftees. But sooner or later, he went through OCS and was commissioned as a 2nd lieutenant, and then he was assigned to the 761st Tank Battalion, which is also called Black Panthers. Have you guys seen Forrest Gump? Okay, that Black Panthers. And so the Black Panthers were basically a tank battalion. They were the first black unit to enter combat in World War II. They basically were a protest group that would protest unfair bills towards them. They would even sometimes develop armed rebellions against their officers. So ever since he was in the Black Panthers, he had a problem with white officers, white superiority. And so July 6, 1944, he got into a bus incident. Basically, it was Rosa Parks round 1. There was no segregation with transportation, and so he gets on the bus. He was waiting hospital tests because of apparent injury earlier in college, so he was just getting it checked out. Bus driver moves him, tries to push him to the back of the bus. Jackie refused, and so he was arrested right there on the spot. The military police took him into custody, put him through court. He was acquitted by an all-white panel, and then he was honorably discharged later in November. So even though he was drafted, he was only in the Army for 2 years, never saw combat, never saw warfare. But ever since the incident to November, he was the Army athletic coach for the sports teams. And so, and then 2 years later, he gets married to his wife, and then he begins to start another career in sports, baseball. The Negroes League, it was a rough time for Jackie. They didn't get all the benefits as the major leagues did, but he was offered a chance to play in the Negro Leagues in 1945. Absolutely hated the experience. The entire league was disorganized. The travel schedule was hectic. The Negroes was a place for gambling. A lot of people gambled on the Negro Leagues. but so his time there was really rough. He played for the Kansas City Monarchs. He was an infielder, he was a shortstop. Despite all the hatred for the league, he performed really well. He was an all-star, 386 batting average, 5 home runs, 13 stolen bases. It only lasted 1 year because he was noticed by some scouts from the actual major leagues, and the very main one was Branch Rickey. He was a huge influence in Jackie's life, and he was the club president and the general manager of the Brooklyn Dodgers. Branch Rickey, he was a huge fan of the Negro Leagues. He would always scout there, looking for additions to the Dodgers, to his ball club. He finds Jackie one day, and then August 28th, 1945, he has a 3-hour-long talk with Jackie about adding him to the Dodgers. There's a famous quote between the two. It says, Jackie Robinson said, "Are you looking for a Negro who is afraid to fight back?" And then Branch says, "I need a player with guts enough not to fight back." And if you've guys seen the movie 42, this conversation is a huge image of what happened back then. So Robinson, he agreed to the signing, offered him $600 a month, which is almost $8,000 a month in today's money. Yeah, not very much. So October 23rd rolls around, publicly announces his enter into the big leagues for the Dodgers, and this upset some of the teams in some of the players in the Negro Leagues because Jackie wasn't really good in the Negro Leagues. I mean, his numbers showed it, but there were better players other than Jackie in the Negro. There's Satchel Paige and Josh Gibson, who are both now in the Major League Hall of Fame. And Josh Gibson quoted one time that, well, not Josh, someone else quoted about Josh should have gone, and I think that's what killed him because he was heartbroken of not going into the major leagues, and which is funny. But so he left the Monarchs and then went home to pursue his minor league baseball career. In the minors, he was assigned to the Montreal Royals, which is a farm team for the Dodgers. So he went to spring training in Florida. Now, Florida being in the South was racially charged at the time. Racism flowed through Florida. The manager did not want to coach him. He wanted to send him to some other farm team. Jackie wasn't allowed to stay at the team hotels. He wasn't allowed to go out with the team after games. So Jackie was just all by himself the entire time. And then even police threatened to cancel games if they see Robinson appeared in a uniform. Despite all the hatred for Jackie in Florida, he led the minors in many offensive categories. He was an all-star. He even boosted attendance, both black and white, for the Montreal Royals. He brought in over 1 million new fans, not old existing fans. He brought in 1 million new fans, and he was so good and people loved him. The sport loved him. And he only played one minors, and he was about to make history in the MLB. April 15th, 1947 is a date that still lives on today. This is Jackie in his major league debut, stealing home. He became the first African American to play in the big leagues. But it also came with positives and negatives. His career came with positives and negatives. Start with the positives. He brought black fans from the Negro League. The Negro League sunk. It was left with no support, no attendance, because everyone wanted to watch Jackie in the major leagues. Another positive is some teammates, even though most of the teammates hated Jackie and some of the players hated Jackie, some teammates loved Jackie, like Pee Wee Reese. He was the shortstop. He's quoted saying, "You can hate a man for many reasons, but color is not one of them." And so him and Pee Wee got really along well in the Dodgers organization. Again, his career He won an MVP. He won a World Series championship. He's a 6-time All-Star. So statistically, he ranks among the best ever to play the game. This is a key one. His number 42 retired in all of professional baseball. So no one ever in the history of professional baseball ever wears the number 42. It doesn't matter if it's a Dodger or not, any team, to respect him. And then a couple years later, after his retirement, he was elected into the Hall of Fame in 1962. But some of the negatives really hurt Jackie. Some teammates refused to play with him. When he first got into the Dodgers organization, his locker was a hanger. That's all he had, was a hanger. His hat hung on the top, and his jersey was just right there, and his pants were that. Everyone else got some brand new equipment. Opposing teams threatened strike. Home games weren't so bad for him, but when they went on the road, most of the teams threatened to cancel games, cancel promotions, stuff like that, because they didn't want, especially in the South, they didn't want any black man to be able to play baseball. And even though he was statistically really great, some games he played poorly, and it will lead to death threats, to insults, not to only him, but also to his family. His wife got many letters at home when he was on the road. In April 12th, 1947, Ben Chapman, this is a key incident because it not only hurt Jackie, but it also united not only his teammates, but it united every baseball fan to love and support Jackie. Ben Chapman, he was the manager for the Philadelphia Phillies, and at one game he probably said the N-word 50 times during one at bat, and he was just trying to get into his head. And Branch Rickey quotes the actions of Ben Chapman as, "Chapman did more than anybody to unite the Dodgers and the Dodgers fan base through his abuse. He united 30 men." So through his abusive actions, the rest of the teammates, the rest of the league supported Jackie for what he was going through, because it's not easy for a guy like Jackie. So his legacy. This is him doing an interview for ABC. He retired from baseball on January 5th, 1957. He only played 9 years in the league because his mind was set on business career and to support his family. He died on October 24th, 1972 from a heart attack. 2 weeks before that, he gave, I believe 2 weeks before that, they retired his number. He's known as one of the most courageous athletes to ever live, going through the abuse, going through the hatred, everything. He fought through it. He did exactly what he promised Branch Rickey at the beginning. April 15th is now Jackie Robinson Day in the MLB. So I have pictures of that in a later slide. But on April 15th, everyone wears the 42 because Pee Wee Reese is quoted, his buddy on the Dodgers quoted that maybe one day we'll all wear 42 so they can't tell us apart. And so now April 15th, every team, every manager wears number 42. UCLA named their baseball stadium after Jackie. It's now called Jackie Robinson Stadium. Still there today. And then after baseball, real quick, he had a slight role in the civil rights movement as an advocate. After baseball, he got a VP job for this Chock Full of Nuts. It's a restaurant chain. And so basically his role was he sent letters out to presidents and like high advocate officials such as MLK. This is a letter that he sent to Eisenhower dealing with the Little Rock Nine, and it just says that we have been waiting for change and we need it now. And so this is him discussing with MLK. So here's pictures of, you can see all the pictures of the players in today's game, just wearing 42 so they can't tell each other. And I have a slight video tribute to Jackie Robinson.
if you can just imagine the first guy. And it's always toughest in the first one.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rickey. I'm certainly delighted with my contract.
He's not afraid to do something that hasn't been done.
To be the one person that's going to have to go through that and endure that every day, I think is amazing courage.
His impact on the game was bigger than just the game. I mean, he had an impact on America.
You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. Raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me
That's his daughter.
up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise
I can only quote what he said himself. He said, "A life is not important except in its impact on the lives of others."
So yeah, that's Jackie. Yeah, like that quote said, his impact that he had throughout his entire life, whether it be high school or young childhood or even in the major leagues, he had a huge impact into future athletes, future African Americans to live their dream, and he still stands.
I would just like to say that I was really just a spoke in the wheel.
And he still stands as one of the greatest players to ever play the game. So, there you go.
Questions.
Oh yeah.
Question. So after his retirement from baseball, his love for football, right? He loved
Mhm.
football.
Yeah.
Had he ever tried to play football?
Other than that one time, no. I think he tried to go to the Olympics, but it was banned because of because of World War II. The previous Olympics was in '36, and so no. I think once he got the option to play for the major leagues, I think he just went that route.
Did any of that have to do with the injuries he had in football, or?
No. The only injury that it hurt him in the military. Before the bus incident, he had an ankle injury that he suffered in football in college, and so it hurt his chances to see combat in the military.
Excellent. Thank you very much.